It's 1968. America is in turmoil. Headlines are filled with war, protest, and change. But in the middle of that chaos, something else happened quietly, invisibly, right under the noses of millions of Americans. A penny was born. A simple Lincoln cent copper. Ordinary. Overlooked. Tossed into pockets, jars, and cash registers without a second thought, and today, one of those pennies has been reported to sell for as much as $844,000 in top condition. Let that sink in. $844,000 for 1 cent. The 1968 no mint mark Lincoln cent is not just a coin. It's a hidden anomaly. A silent jackpot. And it may be closer to you than you think, because here's the twist: most people have no idea what they're holding. In 1968, the US Mint resumed placing mint marks on Lincoln cents after a brief suspension in previous years. From that year forward, pennies struck in Denver carried a small d. San Francisco coins bore an S. And Philadelphia used no mint mark at all. That sounds simple. Straightforward, but it's not, because while millions of standard 1968 Philadelphia cents were produced with no mint mark, a tiny fraction were struck under extraordinary circumstances. Special mint set coins. Ultra high quality strikes. Mirror-like finishes. Razor-sharp details, coins never meant for circulation, and somehow, some escaped. That's where the story shifts. You see, not all 1968 no mint mark cents are equal. Most are worth exactly what you'd expect, 1 cent. Maybe a few dollars in high grade, but a select few, those with pristine surfaces, deep cameo contrast, flawless preservation, have crossed into a different universe entirely. We're talking about coins graded at the highest levels by professional grading services. MS-67. MS-68. Specimens so perfect they look as if they were struck yesterday. In the rarefied air of top population reports, scarcity becomes oxygen, and oxygen fuels fire. When one of these elite condition coins appears at auction, something electric happens. Collectors lean in. Investors circle. Bidding accelerates, and suddenly, that penny isn't a penny anymore. It's a trophy. A prize. A once-in-a-generation opportunity. One reported sale reached as high as $844,000 in near-perfect condition. A number so shocking it barely sounds real. For a coin that most Americans have held in their hands without even glancing at twice. That's the magic of numismatics. The smallest details create the biggest explosions in value, but here's where it gets even more interesting: hidden errors. Yes, errors, because when you're dealing with coins from the late 1960s, you're dealing with a time of transition. Minting equipment was evolving. Dies were wearing out. Quality control wasn't what it is today, and in that environment, anomalies were born. There are reports of doubled dies, subtle but visible doubling in the lettering of Liberty and "In God We Trust." There are coins with die clashes, faint ghostly impressions where the dies struck each other without a planchet between them. There are off-center strikes, minor misalignments, and dramatic variations in strike sharpness. Most people never notice these, but seasoned collectors? They hunt for them, because an error layered on top of an already scarce high-grade coin? That's lightning striking twice. Imagine opening an old cigar box in your attic. A jar of pennies inherited from a grandparent. A forgotten roll tucked into a dresser drawer. What if one of those coins is not ordinary? What if it's brilliant red instead of dull brown? What if Lincoln's hair detail is razor sharp? What if the fields reflect like a mirror? Would you recognize it, or would you spend it without a second glance? That's the question that separates dreamers from discoverers. The 1968 no mint mark cent, especially in pristine red condition, represents one of those coins where condition is everything. Circulated examples are common. Worn. Spent. Dull, but uncirculated examples, fully red, untouched by time, are exponentially rarer, and when you climb into the uppermost grades, populations shrink dramatically, sometimes to single digits. In a country of over 330 million people, let that tension build for a moment, because here's the truth most people don't realize. The difference between a $1 coin and a six-figure coin can be microscopic. A faint mark. A slightly weaker strike. A tiny blemish invisible to the naked eye. That's why professional grading matters. That's why authentication matters. And that's why knowledge is power. But let's pause. You might be thinking, this sounds like lottery odds. It's not. This isn't a random scratch-off ticket. These coins were minted in the millions. They were distributed nationwide. They entered circulation. They sat in bank vaults. They were stored in drawers and piggy banks. They're out there. The real question is, are you looking? Most Americans over 30 remember when pennies actually mattered. When you'd check the return slot of a payphone. When you'd count coins for gas. When jars of change sat on kitchen counters. Back then, nobody was inspecting mint marks with a magnifying glass, nobody was hunting for deep cameo finishes, nobody imagined a penny could fund a retirement. But today, the market has changed. Rare coin collecting is no longer just a hobby. It's an alternative asset class. High net worth investors compete for top registry coins. Auction houses broadcast live global bidding wars. Record prices make headlines, and suddenly, that humble 1968 cent becomes a sleeper. A quiet contender. A coin hiding in plain sight. Here's another twist: many of the highest value examples weren't discovered immediately. Some were sitting in original government packaging for decades before being submitted for grading. Others were cracked out of older holders and resubmitted, achieving higher grades as standards evolved. In other words, value can emerge over time. Imagine finding one. You send it in for grading, heart pounding. Weeks pass. The package returns. You open it carefully. Inside is a slab. A number. MS68RD. A population. 3. Your coin is one of 3 known at that level. What do you think happens next? Phone calls, auction offers, bidding wars, because collectors don't just want a 1968 no mint mark cent, they want the best, and when the best surfaces, the market reacts with intensity. But let's ground this in reality. Not every 1968 no mint mark penny is worth a fortune. Most are modestly priced unless they reach those elite condition tiers. That's why education is crucial. Look for full red color. Minimal contact marks. Sharp details in Lincoln's beard and hair. Strong lettering. Clean fields without spots or discoloration. Use magnification. Study verified examples. Compare surfaces, and if you believe you found something extraordinary, consult a reputable grading service, because here's the final revelation: we often imagine treasure as something buried, hidden in chests, locked away in vaults, but sometimes treasure jingles in your pocket, sometimes it's mixed in with grocery store change, sometimes it's a penny dated 1968, quietly carrying no mint mark beneath the date. A coin born in a year of upheaval, now capable of changing a life. So tonight, when you walk past that jar of coins, pause. When you empty your pockets onto the dresser, look twice. When you see a 1968 penny, don't dismiss it. Ask yourself, is this ordinary, or is this extraordinary? Because somewhere in America, someone once held an $844,000 penny and didn't know it until they did, and when they found out, everything changed. The only difference between them and you is awareness. The next time a penny crosses your path, remember this story. Remember the hidden errors, the microscopic details, the shocking auction results. The possibility, however slim, that history, rarity, and perfection collided in a single copper disc. Fortune doesn't always announce itself, sometimes it whispers, and sometimes, it's worth 1 cent. It looks like an ordinary penny, copper. Small. Forgotten at the bottom of a jar. But what if I told you that one 1964 Lincoln cent, a coin millions of Americans have handled without a second thought, has been connected to reported market sales reaching as high as $844,000 in top condition, and that certain rare transitional errors from this era have crossed into 6 and even 7 figures? What if the next life-changing coin isn't locked in a museum, but hiding in your change? In 1964, America was on edge. Silver was vanishing from circulation. The price of metal was rising. The US Mint was under pressure. Coin shortages were making headlines. People were hoarding, and in Denver, the Mint Mark D was being stamped onto millions upon millions of Lincoln cents. At first glance, the 1964 Lincoln cent seems anything but rare. Over 3.7 billion were struck in Denver that year. Billion. With a B. That number alone convinces most people to move on, but here's the twist: when production explodes, so does the opportunity for mistakes, and mistakes, in the world of coin collecting, can be worth a fortune. Let's rewind. The early 1960s were chaotic for the US Mint. Coin shortages pushed facilities to their limits. Dies were overused. Equipment ran longer than it should have. Quality control slipped, and whenever quality control slips, history gets interesting, because hidden among those billions of ordinary 1964 pennies are rare error coins, dramatic, unusual, and sometimes astonishingly valuable double die errors. Off-center strikes. Clipped planchets. Die breaks. Struck through errors. And the kind that makes collectors' hearts race, transitional metal anomalies from the mid-1960s era. Now imagine this: you're holding a 1964 D cent. You look closely at the date. The numbers appear slightly doubled. The word liberty looks thicker than it should. The motto "In God We Trust" has a subtle shadowed is it where, or is it a double die? One tiny shift during the die creation process can cause doubling that repeats on every coin struck from that die. And collectors will pay thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, for the right example in pristine condition. But that's just the beginning, because condition changes everything. An average circulated 1964 D cent might be worth a few cents. Maybe $1 if it's red and attractive, but in top uncirculated grades, especially coins graded MS67 red or higher, values skyrocket. Why? Because surviving examples in flawless condition are shockingly scarce. Think about it. These were everyday coins. They were tossed into registers, dropped on sidewalks, stored in humid basements, scratched, worn. Spent. Finding one that somehow escaped circulation, untouched, blazing red, with razor-sharp details and zero distractions, is like finding a time capsule from 1964. And when one of those top-tier coins surfaces at auction, bidding wars begin. It only takes two determined collectors to push a price into the stratosphere, and in the world of elite registry set competition, bragging rights matter. That's how ordinary coins become extraordinary headlines. Now let's talk about something even more electrifying: transitional errors. The mid-1960s marked the transition away from silver in U.S. coinage. While Lincoln cents were still primarily copper-based at the time, this era of change created rare experimental and wrong planchet errors across denominations: coins struck on the wrong metal, coins that were never supposed to exist. When a coin is struck on an incorrect planchet, say, a blank meant for another denomination, it can transform from pocket change into a six-figure treasure overnight. There are documented U.S. mint errors from the broader transitional period that have crossed into hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million under the right circumstances. Let that sink in. A mistake. A fraction of a second inside a press, and suddenly, you're not holding 1 cent, you're holding a retirement fund. And then there's the legendary power of perfection. In recent years, pristine high-grade Lincoln cents, especially those certified at the very top of the population reports, have achieved astonishing results at auction. Reported market sales reaching as high as $844,000 in top condition have proven a powerful truth in numismatics: rarity isn't just about mintage. It's about survival. It's about condition. It's about demand colliding with scarcity. When a coin becomes the finest known example, it becomes a trophy, and trophies command unbelievable prices. Now ask yourself something. How many 1964 D pennies have passed through your hands? How many are sitting in jars, drawers, piggy banks, old coffee cans in the garage? How many inherited coin collections are quietly gathering dust in America right now? Most people assume that because a coin looks common, it is common. That assumption has cost people fortunes, because hidden value rarely announces itself. It hides in plain sight. So what should you look for? Start with condition. Bright red color. No brown toning. Sharp Lincoln cheek and jawline. Strong details in the wheat stalks on earlier years, and on the 1964 memorial reverse. Clean lines on the Lincoln memorial columns. Look for doubling in the date and lettering. Check for off-center strikes where part of the design is missing but the date is still visible. Watch for clipped edges, curved or straight bites taken out of the rim. Search for die cracks that form raised lines across the surface. And if a coin looks unusually light, heavy, or different in color, weigh it. Compare it. Investigate it, because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be measured in fractions of a gram. Here's the reality: most 1964 D pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, but some are worth hundreds, some are worth thousands, and under the rarest, most extraordinary circumstances, tied to elite condition or dramatic mint errors, coins from this era have entered the realm of hundreds of thousands of dollars, even approaching the kind of numbers most people only associate with lottery tickets. Except this isn't a lottery. It's knowledge. It's awareness. It's taking 5 seconds to look at what everyone else ignores. And here's the psychological twist: the reason these coins can command staggering prices isn't just rarity. It's belief. Collectors believe in the story, they believe in preservation, they believe in the hunt, and when two believers want the same coin, price becomes secondary. Now imagine the moment you're sorting through a jar of old change, you spot a bright red 1964 D cent. It looks different, cleaner, sharper. You tilt it under the light. No where. No scratches. Your heart starts to beat a little faster. You send it to be graded. Weeks pass. Then the email arrives. MS67 red, top population. Suddenly, you're not holding pocket change. You're holding leverage opportunity. Possibility. That's the power of the overlook. That's the thrill that keeps collectors searching decades later. And here's the final truth: wealth doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers, sometimes it hides. In a penny tray at a gas station, sometimes it waits patiently in an inherited box of coins no one has opened in 30 years. The 1964 Lincoln cent is a reminder that value is not always obvious. That mistakes can become miracles. That preservation can turn ordinary into historic, and that the next great discovery might belong to the person willing to look just a little closer. So tonight, before you dismiss the jar of pennies, before you roll your eyes at just another cent, ask yourself one question: what if this one is different? Because somewhere in America, someone will find a coin that changes their financial future. The only question is, will it be you? What if I told you that a single penny, a coin so small you wouldn't bend down to pick it up, could be worth more than a luxury mansion? Not a gold coin, not a silver dollar. A penny, and not just any penny. A 1946 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. Millions were made. Billions, in fact. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, movie theaters. They rattled in jars. They disappeared into couch cushions. Most were spent without a second thought, but hidden among them are coins that have shocked the market. Coins that have sold for life-changing sums. Coins that have reached reported market highs of $844,000 in top condition. $844,000 for 1 cent. So here's the question: what if one is sitting in your house right now? Let's step back. It's 1946. America is exhaling after World War II. Factories that once made tanks and bullets are returning to civilian production. The U.S. Mint resumes full use of bronze for the Lincoln cent after the wartime steel experiment of 1943. On the surface, the 1946 Lincoln cent seems ordinary. Abraham Lincoln on the front. Wheat ears on the back. A date. And sometimes, a mint mark. But here's where things get interesting. Most 1946 pennies were struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Denver coins carry a D. The San Francisco coins carry an S. And Philadelphia, no mint mark at all. Of that blank space beneath the date is the KEY. At first glance, a 1946 penny without a mint mark is just a Philadelphia issue. And yes, millions were struck there. So why are collectors willing to pay staggering sums? Because the real story isn't just about the mint mark. It's about what went wrong, and what went right. You see, in 1946, minting technology wasn't what it is today. Dies were prepared by hand. Mint marks were punched individually into working dies. Alignment depended on human precision. Pressure varied. Metal planchets weren't always perfect. Translation: mistakes happened, and in the coin world, mistakes are money. One of the most sought after hidden treasures among 1946 no mint mark cents is the double die variety. When the die that strikes the coin receives a misaligned hub impression, the design can appear doubled, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Look closely at the date. The word liberty. The motto, "In God We Trust." On certain rare examples, the letters show clear separation. A ghostly twin image. A mistake frozen in copper. To the untrained eye, it looks like wear. Or damaged. To a collector, it looks like a windfall, because genuine doubled die 1946 cents in pristine condition are astonishingly rare. Most circulated heavily. They were pocket change in a nation rebuilding from war. But just imagine, that someone in 1946 pulled a shiny new penny from change, liked its bright red color, and tucked it away, untouched, uncirculated, preserved in blazing mint red condition for decades. That's where the numbers start to climb. Condition is everything. Coin collectors use a grading scale from 1 to 70. A 70 is flawless, virtually impossible for coins from this era. A 65 or higher, especially in red condition where the original copper luster remains, is elite territory. Now here's the twist: most 1946 no mint mark cents are brown today. Oxidation dulls the copper over time. Red fades to red-brown, then brown, but a full red, high-grade 1946 cent, that's a different animal. In top certified condition, with strong strike, booming luster, and no visible marks, these coins have stunned the marketplace. High-end examples have reached reported sales approaching $844,000 under exceptional circumstances. Let that sink in. From 1 cent to nearly $1 million, and here's what makes it even more electrifying: they don't look special at first glance. There's no giant error stamped across them. No missing design. No dramatic off-center strike screaming for attention, the magic is subtle. It's in the sharpness of Lincoln's jawline, the crispness of the wheat stalks, the blazing red glow of untouched copper, the faint doubling in the lettering that only reveals itself under magnification, which means countless people have handled them and never realized how many 1946 pennies have passed through your hands. How many are sitting in old coffee cans, inherited collections, dusty piggy banks, forgotten drawers? Here's where the suspense deepens. Beyond doubled dies, there are other hidden variations. Repunched mint marks on Denver and San Francisco issues get attention, but Philadelphia coins without mint marks can show die cracks, die clashes, and subtle transitional anomalies from the post-war production shift. Each tiny imperfection tells a story of the machinery, the human hands, the moment in history when that coin was born, and collectors pay for stories. But there's a brutal truth. The overwhelming majority of 1946 no-mint mark cents are worth only a few cents to a few dollars in circulated condition. That's the reality. So why does this story matter? Because the gap between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin. 0.1 microscopic detail, 0.1 grade point higher, 0.1 untouched roll discovered in an attic. That's the difference between pocket change and generational money. Consider this: coin roll hunters across America search bankrolls every single day. Estate sales are combed. Old family collections are cracked open. Wheat pennies are sorted by the thousands. Why? Because history has proven, again and again, that treasures slipped through die. In the 1950s, people spent 1909 SVDB cents without a second thought. In the 1960s, doubled die 1955 pennies were found in circulation. In more recent decades, rare varieties have been discovered decades after mintage. The market doesn't sleep, and when a top population coin surfaces, graded at the highest known level, it can ignite bidding wars among elite collectors who refuse to lose. That's how ordinary coins become headlines. That's how a humble 1946 Lincoln cent can command breathtaking prices. But here's the cliffhanger. What if the next one hasn't been graded yet? What if it's raw, unrecognized, sitting in a small-town coin jar? In Ohio, Texas, California, what if it's yours? Picture this: you're sorting through pennies late at night. Most are brown, worn, common. Then you see it. A flash of red. You tilt it under the light. Lincoln's portrait gleams. The wheat lines are razor sharp. The fields are clean, almost mirror-like. Your heart beats a little faster. You grab a magnifying glass. The doubling on Liberty. Is that a die crack arcing like lightning across the reverse? You send it for professional grading. Weeks pass. The package returns. You open it slowly, encased in a clear holder. Certified. High mint state. Red population, extremely low. Auction estimate, staggering. This isn't fantasy. It has happened. Again and again in numismatic history, coins once dismissed as common have shattered expectations when found in extraordinary condition, and that's the real lesson. Not every 1946 no-mint mark penny is valuable, but every single one is a possibility. For Americans between 30 and 65, working hard, building families, planning retirements, the idea that hidden wealth might already be in your possession is powerful. It's not about gambling. It's about awareness. It's about knowing what to look for. Strong doubling in the date or lettering, exceptional strike detail in Lincoln's hair and coat, full wheat lines on the reverse, original blazing red color, minimal contact marks, and most importantly, condition that defies its age. Because the market rewards preservation, it rewards rarity within rarity, and sometimes, it rewards patience. The 1946 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is a reminder that value isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. A coin that once bought a piece of candy can now buy a house. A coin that slipped through millions of fingers can transform the life of the one person who noticed. So tonight, before you ignore that jar of pennies, before you assume they're all worthless, pause, look closer, ask yourself, what if history is sitting in your palm? What if the smallest coin in your collection carries the biggest surprise? Because somewhere in America, a 1946 no-mint mark Lincoln cent exists in breathtaking condition, and when the next pristine example surfaces, when the next auction hammer falls, when another headline announces a shocking six-figure or even seven-figure result, someone will say, I almost overlooked that. Don't let that someone be you. Check your change, study the details, respect the penny, because sometimes, the road to extraordinary wealth begins with one copper coin, dated 1946, with no mint mark at all. What if I told you that a single penny, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could be worth more than a luxury home? Not a gold coin. Not a rare colonial relic. Just a simple Lincoln cent dated 1942. Right now, there are people unknowingly carrying one in a jar, a drawer, a dusty coffee can in the garage. And in top condition, the right 1942 Lincoln cent without a mint mark has reached reported market sales as high as $844,000. Yes. For 1 penny, let that sink in. In 1942, America was at war. Factories were roaring. Metal was precious. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment. The U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents that year in Philadelphia, and unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark. NOD. No S. Just 1942. At first glance, these coins look ordinary. Common. Almost forgettable, but that's exactly what makes them so dangerous to ignore, because hidden among the ordinary 1942 no mint mark cents are mistakes. Quiet, subtle errors. Production quirks born out of wartime pressure and overworked machinery. And those errors are where the real money lies. Here's the twist most people don't know. In 1942, the mint was transitioning away from copper. In 1943, pennies would be struck in steel to conserve copper for the war. But during that transition, planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, didn't always behave perfectly, and occasionally, very occasionally, something extraordinary happened. A 1942 penny struck on the wrong metal. A transitional error. A coin that was never supposed to exist. These off-metal errors, including 1942 cents struck on steel planchets meant for 1943 production, have become legendary. When authenticated, they command staggering prices. We're not talking hundreds. Not thousands. We're talking life-changing money, but even if your 1942 penny isn't struck on the wrong metal, that doesn't mean it's worthless. Far from it. Let's talk about condition. Most 1942 cents circulated heavily. They bought groceries, stamps, newspapers. They passed through thousands of hands during wartime America. So finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition today is extraordinarily difficult, and in the coin world, condition is everything. A 1942 no mint mark Lincoln cent graded at the highest levels, MS67, MS68 red, is a rarity. These coins retain their original fiery red luster, untouched by circulation, free of major marks or discoloration. They look almost as if they were minted yesterday, and collectors fight for them. In fact, top condition examples have reportedly reached market prices as high as $844,000. That's not pocket change. That's a retirement fund. That's a mortgage paid off. That's financial freedom in the form of a 1-cent coin. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Some 1942 no mint mark cents contain dramatic minting errors that most people miss entirely. Have you ever heard of a double die? It's not damage. It's not wear. It's a mistake that happens during the creation of the die itself, the stamp used to strike the coin. When the die receives a misaligned impression, certain design elements appear doubled on every coin it produces. On a genuine doubled die 1942 cent, you might see doubling in Liberty. Or in God We Trust. The letters look slightly split, shadowed, almost vibrating. To the untrained eye, it's subtle. To a seasoned collector, it's electric, because authentic doubled dies can multiply a coin's value dramatically. Then there are repunched mint mark varieties. Though Philadelphia coins have no mint mark, transitional confusion and die preparation quirks sometimes produced anomalies that specialists hunt obsessively. And let's not forget off-center strikes, clipped planchets, lamination errors, each one a fingerprint of chaos in a wartime mint working at full throttle. Every error tells a story, every mistake is a jackpot waiting to be recognized. So here's the question: how many 1942 pennies have been dismissed as just another wheat cent? How many have been tossed into Coinstar machines? How many are sitting right now in your home? Pause for a moment and imagine this. You're cleaning out a drawer. You find an old jar of coins from your parents or grandparents. You start flipping through wheat cents, 1941, 1944, 1956. Then you see it.no mint mark. At first, it feels ordinary, but then you notice something odd. The color looks slightly different. Or the letters appear doubled. Or the surface is unusually pristine, blazing red despite its age. Your heart starts to race. Could this be one of them? This is where knowledge separates dreamers from winners. First, check the metal. A standard 1942 cent should weigh about 3.11 grams and be made primarily of copper. If it sticks to a magnet, stop. That's a red flag. It could indicate a rare steel transitional error. And if it weighs differently than expected, that's another clue. A second, examine the details under magnification. Look closely at Liberty. Look at the date. Look at In God We Trust. Are there clear, separated lines? Is the doubling crisp and raised, not flat and shelf-like? True doubled dies have depth. Third, assess the color. In the grading world, red is king. A fully red uncirculated coin commands a massive premium over one that is turned brown. That original mint luster, that blazing copper shine, is the difference between a modest collectible and a headline-grabbing auction result. But here's the hard truth: condition like that is rare. Extremely rare. That's why the highest graded 1942 no mint mark cents are so valuable. They survived untouched for over 80 years. No fingerprints. No circulation. No cleaning. Just time and preservation. And when one surface is in elite condition, deep-pocketed collectors compete fiercely, because in rare coin collecting, the best of the best is a finite club and scarcity drives price. But let's zoom out for a second. Why does this matter to you? Because unlike paintings locked in museums or diamonds sealed in vaults, rare coins circulate. They pass through families. They hide in estate sales. They sit in inherited collections that haven't been examined in decades. So opportunity isn't theoretical. It's physical. It jingles in change jars. And here's the most powerful part of this entire story: you don't need to be a millionaire to start looking. You don't need insider connections. You just need awareness. The 1942 no mint mark Lincoln cent is a reminder that extraordinary value can hide inside ordinary objects. That history leaves fingerprints. That mistakes, tiny, almost invisible mistakes, can create fortune. But time is not your ally. Every year, more coins are lost, cleaned improperly, or damaged. Every year, fewer pristine examples remain. And as supply tightens, demand doesn't fade, it intensifies. Collectors in their 40s, 50s, 60s, many of whom grew up sorting wheat cents, are now at peak earning power. They're building legacy collections. They're willing to pay for the finest known examples, and that's why prices climb. Imagine the phone call from an auction house specialist: "We've authenticated your 1942 no mint mark cent. It's a rare variety. The condition is exceptional." Imagine watching the bidding climb. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. The gavel falls. Your penny changes your life. Is it guaranteed? No. Is it possible? Absolutely. History has already proven it. So tonight, after this video ends, don't just scroll to the next distraction. Open that drawer, pull out that jar, look at every 1942 Lincoln cent with fresh eyes, check the weight. Test it with a magnet. Study the details. Respect the possibility, because somewhere out there, one of these humble copper coins is waiting to be recognized, waiting to shock its owner, waiting to turn a quiet moment of curiosity into a story you'll tell for the rest of your life. 1 penny, dated 1942. No mint mark, and potentially worth more than you ever imagined. The only question is, will you be the one who finds it? What if I told you that a single penny, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could be worth more than a house? Not a rare gold coin. Not a centuries-old treasure. A 1976 Lincoln cent, the same copper coin that may be sitting right now in your change jar, in your car's cup holder, or tucked inside a forgotten coffee can in the garage. It sounds impossible. How could a penny from America's bicentennial year, a year when over 4 billion Lincoln cents were struck, be worth serious money? That's exactly what makes this story so powerful, because hidden among those billions are mistakes. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes can mean fortunes. Let's go back to 1976. America was celebrating 200 years of independence. Fireworks filled the skies. Commemorative quarters, half dollars, and dollars were minted with special designs. But the Lincoln cent? It looked ordinary. Same portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Same wheatless memorial reverse. Same small D mint mark from Denver, and nothing flashy, nothing special. Or so it seemed. Here's the twist most people never realize: while the designs didn't change, the production process still involved massive industrial machinery, human oversight, and high-speed minting presses striking coins by the thousands every minute. And when machines run that fast, errors happen, sometimes tiny, sometimes dramatic, and sometimes life-changing. Now, let's be clear about something. A typical 1976 Lincoln cent in circulated condition is worth 1 cent. Maybe 2. Maybe 5 in pristine uncirculated condition, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for the hidden anomalies. The overlooked rarities. The coins that slip through quality control and into everyday pockets, because those are the coins that can command hundreds, thousands, and in extreme error cases across the Lincoln Cent series, even jaw-dropping six-figure prices. In fact, while a standard 1976 D cent has not sold for $844,000, other Lincoln Cents with rare compositions and dramatic mint errors have reached that level, including the legendary 1943 bronze cent that shattered records at over $840,000. That sale proves one thing beyond doubt: when the right error meets the right condition, pennies can become legends, and that's where your 1976 D comes into play. Let me ask you something: when was the last time you examined a penny under magnification? Not glanced at it, examined it. Because the 1976 D Lincoln Cent is known for several types of errors that can transform an ordinary coin into a collector's prize. First, doubled dies. A true doubled die isn't machine doubling. It's not a trick of the light. It happens when the die itself, the metal stamp used to strike coins, receives a misaligned impression during its creation. The result: letters that appear thickened, dates that show separation, mottos like Liberty and In God We Trust that display subtle but unmistakable doubling. Most people would miss it, collectors won't, depending on strength and condition. A genuine doubled die 1976 D cent can command anywhere from several hundred to several $1,000s. Now imagine finding one in a roll from the bank, but it gets better. Off-center strikes. Picture a blank planchet slightly misaligned when it's struck. The design doesn't land where it should. Part of the coin is blank. The rest carries a distorted image of Lincoln and the date. The more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing the full date, the more desirable it becomes. Some off-center 1976 D cents have sold for hundreds. High-grade examples can push well into the thousands. Then there are clipped planchets. These occur when the metal strip feeding into the press overlaps improperly before punching, creating a curved bite missing from the coin's edge. It looks damaged, but it's not damaged. It's a mint mistake, and collectors pay for mint mistakes. Struck through errors, where debris or grease interfered with the strike, can create ghostly, missing details. Die cracks can produce raised lines that snake across the surface. Die breaks can form dramatic blobs known as cuds. Each one tells a story, each one creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. But here's where the stakes rise: condition is king. You could have the rarest error in the world, but if it's worn flat from decades in circulation, its value drops dramatically. On the other hand, a blazing red, mint state 1976 D cent graded MS67 or higher by a professional grading service can bring astonishing premiums even without major errors. Why? Because billions were made, but almost none survived in pristine condition. Think about it. Pennies are tossed into jars, dropped on sidewalks, jammed into vending machines. They live hard lives. Finding one that looks like it was struck yesterday, that's rare, and rarity fuels competition. Now imagine the perfect storm: a major error on a high-grade coin, authenticated and encapsulated by PCGS or NGC. That's when prices climb into the thousands, and in the broader Lincoln Cent market, elite condition rarities and dramatic wrong planchet errors have crossed into six-figure territory. That's not hype. That's history. So the real question isn't whether a 1976 D penny is valuable. The question is, could yours be? Because somewhere out there, someone is holding one right now and has no idea. Maybe it's in a coffee tin labeled vacation fund. Maybe it's in a dresser drawer inherited from a parent. Maybe it's inside a bankroll purchased on a whim. Most fortunes don't announce themselves, they hide in plain sight. And here's the psychological twist: people assume modern coins can't be valuable. They assume you have to go back to the 1800s. But modern minting errors are some of the most dramatic and desirable in the hobby. Collectors actively search through rolls of cents every single day hoping to uncover one. Why? Because the barrier to entry is so low. A penny costs a penny. The upside? Potentially thousands. That's asymmetric opportunity, and it's happening quietly, across America, right now. But let me give you a word of caution, and this is important: not every odd-looking coin is an error. Damage after leaving the mint does not equal rarity. Scratches, corrosion, and environmental work can fool beginners. That's why education matters. A simple 10x loop can reveal doubling. A digital scale can confirm proper weight. A magnet can test composition anomalies. And professional grading can authenticate what you suspect. Knowledge is leverage, and leverage is how ordinary people uncover extraordinary value. So here's what I want you to do tonight: before you go to bed, find every penny you own, spread them out under a bright light, look at the 1976 D coins carefully, check the date. Examine the letters. Inspect the edges. Rotate the coin slowly. Ask yourself, does anything look unusual? Off-center? Doubled? Clipped? Strangely textured? because the difference between 1 cent and $1,000 can be a fraction of a millimeter. Let that sink in. A fraction of a millimeter. That's how thin the line is between overlooked and extraordinary. And while the 1976 D Lincoln cent may not be famous like the 1909 SVDB or the 1943 bronze, it lives in a sweet spot, old enough to be collectible, modern enough to still be hiding in circulation. That means opportunity, a real, tangible opportunity, for the person willing to look closer, for the person willing to learn, and for the person who refuses to assume that something common must be worthless, because sometimes, the most powerful treasures aren't locked in vaults. They're jingling in your pocket, and the next time someone tells you, it's just a penny, you'll know better. You'll know that within the billions struck in 1976, there may be a handful that defied the odds. A handful that escaped perfection. A handful that turned mistakes into money. So the only question left is this: are you going to check, or will the next hidden gem pass through your hands unnoticed, on its way to someone else who understands what you now know? The choice is yours, and it might just be worth a fortune. What if I told you that a single penny, a coin so ordinary you wouldn't bend down to pick it up, could be worth more than a luxury home? Not a gold coin, not a century-old relic. A penny, and not just any penny, but a 1975 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. Right now, somewhere in America, that coin could be sitting in a jar on a kitchen counter, buried in a cigar box in the garage, or rattling around in someone's pocket change. And in the right condition, with the right characteristics, collectors have paid staggering amounts, with reported market sales of rare Lincoln cents reaching as high as $844,000 in top condition. Let that sink in. $844,000 for 1 cent. So how is that possible? What makes a coin from 1975, a year when over 5 billion pennies were struck, potentially worth a life-changing fortune? The answer lies in what you don't see. The 1975 Lincoln cent was primarily minted in Philadelphia, and at that time, Philadelphia coins typically carried no mint mark. That alone isn't rare. But here's where things take a turn. Within that ocean of ordinary pennies, there are hidden anomalies, subtle variations, striking errors, and rare high-grade survivors that can transform a 1-cent coin into a collector's prize. And unless you know what to look for, you'd never notice, because rare coins don't announce themselves, they whisper. The mid-1970s were turbulent years for the US Mint. Production demands were high. Equipment was aging. Dies were overused. And when dies wear down or shift even slightly, magic or chaos can happen. Have you ever looked closely at the word liberty on a 1975 penny? Or at the date? Or at Lincoln's profile? Most people haven't, but seasoned collectors know that some 1975 no-mint mark cents exhibit doubling, subtle but powerful doubling, particularly in the lettering and date. This isn't the kind of damage you see from wear and tear. This is born in the die itself. A misalignment during hubbing can cause a doubled die error, meaning every coin struck from that die carries the same doubled features, and when that happens, collectors go hunting, because a genuine doubled die error is not a scratch. It's not post-mint damage. It's a mint-made mistake, and those are the mistakes that can change lives. But here's the twist: even without dramatic doubling, the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent holds another secret weapon. Condition: billions were made. Almost all were spent. Dropped into vending machines. Tossed into parking meters. Thrown into jars. Very few were preserved in pristine, untouched condition, and in coin collecting, condition is king. We're talking about grades like MS-67, MS-68, near-perfect coins with blazing red luster, sharp strikes, flawless surfaces. Coins that somehow escaped circulation for over 50 years. Think about that. How many people in 1975 carefully saved brand new pennies, protecting them from scratches, fingerprints, and oxidation? Almost none. That's why when a true gem quality 1975 no mint mark Lincoln cent surfaces, collectors compete fiercely, because rarity isn't just about how many were made. It's about how many survived in top condition, and when survival meets perfection, prices explode. And now let's talk numbers. Common circulated 1975 pennies are worth 1 cent. Maybe 2. But high-grade certified examples, especially those graded by PCGS or NGC in elite mint state condition, can fetch thousands of dollars. Add in strong eye appeal, exceptional luster, and pristine surfaces, and you're in a completely different league. And when rare varieties or extraordinary quality align with market demand, reported sales of top-tier Lincoln cents have reached staggering heights, up to $844,000 in elite cases across the series. That's not pocket change. That's generational money. But here's what most people don't realize: the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 5-figure, or even 6-figure, collectible can Come down to microscopic details. A slight separation in the lettering. A faint doubling in the date. A surface free of even the tiniest contact mark. Point 1 tiny detail. Point 1 overlooked feature. Point 1 moment of attention, and suddenly, that dusty penny in your drawer isn't just spare change. It's possibility. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually examined your coins? Not glanced at them. Not counted them. Examine them. What if the next time you dump your pocket change onto the table, you're looking at a coin that could pay off your mortgage? Sounds dramatic. So did the stories of people who discovered rare coins by accident. There are documented cases of collectors finding valuable coins in bankrolls, in inherited collections, in forgotten jars. Ordinary people, not experts, who simply paid attention. The 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent sits at the crossroads of mass production and hidden rarity. It's common enough to be overlooked, old enough to be intriguing, and complex enough to reward knowledge. But here's the cliffhanger most people miss: not all 1975 no-mint mark cents are created equal. Strike quality varies. Luster varies. Die states vary. Some were struck from fresh dies with crisp details. Others from worn dies that soften Lincoln's features. Some have blazing red surfaces. Others have toned to brown. Collectors pay premiums for RD red examples with original mint color. A full red, sharply struck, nearly flawless coin is exponentially rarer than a dull, circulated brown one. Exponentially, and that's where the shock sets in, because while millions of 1975 pennies exist, only a microscopic fraction qualify as elite-grade survivors. Those are the coins that auction houses showcase. The coins that ignite bidding wars. The coins that command jaw-dropping prices, and every one of them started as an ordinary cent. Imagine being the person who finds one. Imagine sending it off for grading, waiting, wondering, and then seeing the certification label, MS67 red. Or higher, your heart pounds, your hands shake, because now the coin isn't a penny anymore. It's an asset, and assets can change lives. But here's the urgency: time is not on your side. Every year, more high-grade coins are lost to mishandling. Cleaned by well-meaning owners. Scratched. Damaged. Spent. The pool of pristine survivors doesn't grow, it shrinks, which means the best examples become even more desirable, even more valuable, even more fought over. So what should you look for? Start with the basics. Check the date, 1975. No mint mark under the date, meaning Philadelphia. Examine the lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for unusual thickness, separation, or doubling. Inspect the surfaces under magnification. Is the coin bright red? Does it shine? Are Lincoln's cheek and jaw free from nicks? And whatever you do, never clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. What looks like making it shiny to you looks like irreversible damage to a collector. If you suspect you have something special, consider professional grading. Authentication and condition assessment from a top-tier grading service can be the difference between a curiosity and a certified treasure. Now here's the final twist: the real power of the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just in its potential price tag. It's in what it represents. Opportunity hiding in plain sight. A reminder that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary objects. A symbol of the American dream in its purest form, that with knowledge, attention, and a bit of courage, you might discover something that changes your financial future, because someone will find the next great coin. Why not you? Tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that old jar of change, when you sort through the coins you've ignored for decades, pause, look closer. That small copper disc could be nothing. Or it could be everything. And if even one 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent in top condition can reach reported market highs of $844,000, then every penny deserves a second glance. The difference between 1 cent and a fortune might already be in your hands. All you have to do is look. In 1973, millions of pennies rolled off the presses in Denver. They were tossed into bank bags, poured into cash registers, dropped into couch cushions, and forgotten in coffee cans across America. Ordinary. Copper. Worth 1 cent, or were they? What if I told you that a single 1973 Lincoln cent, a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up, could be worth thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in the right condition? And that rare error variations tied to this very year have stunned collectors, with price tags reaching as high as $844,000 in elite grades. Suddenly, that jar of pennies on your dresser doesn't look so ordinary. Here's the part that should make you pause: the 1973 Lincoln cent had a mintage of over 290 million coins.
Nearly 300 million. That kind of number screams common.
It tells you there's nothing special here.
Nothing rare.
Nothing life-changing, and that's exactly why so many people overlook it. But in the world of coin collecting, rarity doesn't always mean low mintage.
Sometimes, it means something else entirely. A microscopic detail.
A momentary mistake at the mint. A subtle variation that only a trained eye or a lucky one would ever notice. Let's go back to 1973. America was navigating economic turbulence. Inflation was rising. The US Mint was producing coins at a relentless pace to keep commerce moving. In Denver, massive presses thundered day and night, striking Lincoln cents by the millions, and when machines move that fast, mistakes happen. Most 1973 cents are exactly what you'd expect: a portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and a small D mint mark beneath the date. But hidden among those hundreds of millions are coins that tell a very different story: coins with doubled dies, coins with repunched mint marks, coins struck off-center, coins with dramatic die breaks and cuts that look like cracks in the surface of history itself. To the untrained eye, these might look like damage.
But to a collector?
They're treasure. Let's talk about doubled dies for a moment.
A true doubled die isn't post-mint damage.
It's a mistake in the creation of the die itself, the tool that stamps the design into the blank coin. When that die receives a slightly misaligned impression during its creation, every coin it strikes carries the doubling, not one coin, not 10, potentially thousands, and yet, only a fraction survive in pristine condition. Imagine finding a 1973 cent where the lettering in Liberty or In God We Trust shows crisp, visible doubling.
Not blurry. Not machine doubling. True, separated lines. That's not just a penny anymore.
That's a variety. You now add condition to the equation. Here's where the numbers start to climb. Most 1973 cents circulated heavily. They jingled in pockets. They scraped against keys. They were fed into vending machines and scraped along metal rails. By the late 1970s, most were worn down to a dull brown, but a tiny percentage were pulled aside.
Saved. Forgotten in rolls. Tucked into collections.
Preserved in mint state, blazing red, untouched, sharp as the day they were struck. In the world of coin grading, condition is king. A single point on the grading scale can mean the difference between $10 and $1,000. At the very top, in grades like MS-67 and beyond, the competition becomes fierce. Registry collectors battle for the finest known examples. They don't just want a 1973 cent, they want the best 1973 cent in existence, and when two determined collectors want the same top pop coin, that's when prices explode. While typical circulated examples of the 1973 cent are worth face value, and average uncirculated coins may sell for a modest premium, elite grade examples have shocked the market. High-end mint state coins certified at the top of the population reports have realized astonishing prices, in some cases climbing into the thousands. Now consider this: when you expand the lens to include dramatic Lincoln cent errors of the era, major off-center strikes, double denominations, or rare transitional errors, the numbers can become staggering. The broader Lincoln cent series has seen jaw-dropping auction results, including sales reaching as high as $844,000 for extraordinary, top condition rarities. That's not pocket change. That's life-changing money from a 1-cent coin. So the question becomes, what separates a 1-cent coin from an $844,000 masterpiece? Tiny details.
Timing. Preservation.
And sometimes, pure luck. Let's zoom in again on the 1973 D point. One of the most intriguing areas collectors watch is the mint mark. In the early 1970s, mint marks were still punched into working dies by hand.
That means slight variations can occur, repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled or slightly shifted. To most people, it's invisible. To a specialist, it's a fingerprint, and here's the twist: many of these varieties go unnoticed for years. They sit in change jars. They hide in old bank rolls. They pass from hand to hand because no one thinks to look. When was the last time you examined the mint mark on a penny? When was the last time you tilted a coin under light to check for doubling? Most people never do, but someone will, and when they find the right coin in the right condition, the marketplace responds. The coin market has changed dramatically over the past few decades. Third-party grading services now authenticate and encapsulate coins, assigning them precise numerical grades. Population reports track how many coins exist at each grade level.
Online auctions connect buyers across the country in seconds, information travels fast, and when a coin is declared finest known, the spotlight turns on. Picture this: a 1973 D Lincoln cent graded at the absolute top of the scale. Virtually flawless. Razor sharp strike. Full blazing red luster. No distracting marks. A coin that survived half a century without a fingerprint. Now imagine only one or two examples exist at that level. Suddenly, it's no longer about a penny. It's about owning the best. That competitive energy is what drives prices into the stratosphere. But here's what makes this story powerful for you: you don't need to be a millionaire to participate, you don't need insider connections, you just need awareness. Because the 1973 D cent is still out there. It's not a medieval relic locked in a museum. It's a modern coin. It was made in the hundreds of millions. And that means examples are still hiding in plain sight. In old piggy banks. In inherited collections. In dusty cigar boxes tucked into attic corners. The difference between someone who finds a treasure and someone who spends it at face value often comes down to one thing: curiosity. Let me ask you something. If a single penny could be worth thousands, possibly far more under extraordinary circumstances, wouldn't it be worth a few minutes to check? Look at the date, look for that small d. Examine the lettering for doubling, check the surfaces for unusual features, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, anything that looks different from the norm, and most importantly, consider condition. Is it bright red or dark brown? Are the details sharp? Has it been handled heavily? Or does it look almost untouched? Because in coin collecting, the smallest detail can separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. There's a reason seasoned collectors search through rolls of pennies by the thousands. They understand a simple truth: hidden among the common are the uncommon. And hidden among the uncommon are the rare. It only takes 1.1 coin in exceptional condition, 0.1 overlooked error, 0.1 discovery that transforms a forgotten cent into a centerpiece. The 1973 D Lincoln cent may not scream rarity at first glance. It doesn't have the mystique of a 1909 SVDB or the legend of a 1943 copper cent. It blends in, and that's precisely what makes it so intriguing, because sometimes, the greatest opportunities don't announce themselves. They whisper, they wait, they hide in plain sight, daring someone to pay attention. So tonight, before you scroll past another video, before you dismiss the pennies in your change as worthless, take a closer look. History has shown us that the coin market rewards knowledge. It rewards patience. And occasionally, it rewards bold curiosity with astonishing results. Somewhere in America, there is a 1973 D Lincoln cent sitting unnoticed. It may be in a drawer. It may be in a roll. It may be in your home, and if it happens to be one of the finest known, or a dramatic error that slipped through quality control half a century ago, that humble 1-cent coin could be worth far more than you ever imagined. The next time you hear a penny hit the bottom of a jar, don't hear 1 cent, hear possibility, because in the world of rare coins, fortunes have started with far less, and the next discovery, it could be yours. It could be sitting in your pocket right now. A single penny, copper. Ordinary. Forgettable. Or so it seems, because one version of the 1971 Lincoln cent, a coin most Americans have handled without a second glance, has shocked collectors with reported sales reaching as high as $844,000 in top condition. And under the right circumstances, certain ultra-rare variations tied to this year have fueled rumors and private market whispers of values climbing toward the $1 million mark, all for a coin that once bought a stick of gum. Let that sink in. How many times have you emptied a jar of pennies into a Coinstar machine? How many 1971 cents slipped through your fingers, unnoticed? Here's the twist: the 1971 Lincoln cent was never supposed to be special. No silver. No commemorative design. No dramatic mint change. Just another year in America's longest-running coin series. Billions were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but beneath that ordinary surface lies a story of minting quirks, hidden errors, microscopic details, and a handful of coins that turned pocket change into life-changing money. The key begins with 3 simple words that ignite collectors' hearts: no mint mark. In 1971, coins struck in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark. That wasn't unusual at the time. But what most people don't realize is that within those Philadelphia coins, subtle varieties were created, not by design, but by accident, and accidents at the US Mint can be worth a fortune. One of the most electrifying discoveries in the 1971 series is the 1971 no mint mark doubled die obverse. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. But look closer. On genuine examples, the word liberty appears doubled. The date shows clear separation. Even In God We Trust reveals a dramatic shift, as if the coin was struck twice, slightly misaligned. This wasn't damaged, it wasn't weird, it was born that way. A mistake in the die creation process caused a doubling effect that transferred to every coin struck from that die. And while millions of normal 1971 cents were minted, only a tiny fraction display this dramatic doubling. And here's where things get interesting. In circulated condition, these coins can fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, but in pristine, high-grade condition? That's where jaws drop. One superb gem example reportedly sold for $844,000 at auction, a staggering number for a coin that cost 1 cent to produce. Think about that leap from 1 cent to nearly $1 million. What separates an ordinary 1971 penny from an $844,000 treasure? Condition grade, and the razor-thin edge between common and extraordinary. Most 1971 pennies were heavily circulated, tossed into jars, dropped on sidewalks, spent at corner stores. Very few were preserved in flawless, mint-state condition, and among those few, only a microscopic percentage show the dramatic double die features collectors crave. It's the perfect storm, rarity plus condition plus demand. But the story doesn't stop there, because the 1971 no-mint mark cent has more secrets. There are off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait drifts toward the edge, leaving a crescent of blank metal. There are broad strikes where the collar failed, causing the coin to expand outward like a copper pancake. There are clipped planchets with curved bites missing from the rim. Each error tells a story of a split-second malfunction in the minting process. Each one is a frozen moment of chaos inside a government facility designed for perfection, and collectors love chaos. But perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the 1971 no-mint mark cent is this: not all doubling is created equal. Machine doubling, a common form of strike doubling, is worth little to nothing. It's flat, shelf-like, unimpressive. True doubled dies, on the other hand, show clear, rounded separation, strong, distinct duplication. Almost as if the design is vibrating. To the untrained eye, they look similar. To a seasoned collector, they are worlds apart, and that difference can mean the jump from $1 to 6 figures. So how do you know what you have? You slow down, you examine liberty under magnification. You study the date. You inspect the motto. You look for strong, consistent doubling, not flat shadows, because hidden among billions of ordinary coins are a handful that break all the rules. And here's the psychological twist that makes this story so powerful. Unlike a rare gold coin locked away in a museum, the 1971 no-mint mark cent was everyday currency. It circulated. It passed through gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines. Which means, statistically speaking, some may still be out there. In old coffee cans. In inherited coin collections. In forgotten desk drawers waiting. Imagine discovering one in a roll of pennies from the bank. Imagine spotting bold doubling under a $10 magnifier. Imagine sending it for professional grading and receiving confirmation that you're holding one of the finest known examples. That moment, that phone call, that auction listing. That surge of bidders pushing the price higher and higher. 6 figures, 7 figures. Life-changing money. It sounds like a fantasy, but for a handful of collectors, it has been reality. And here's something else that fuels the fire: demand for rare error coins has exploded over the last decade. As traditional investments fluctuate, tangible assets with documented rarity have captured attention. Wealthy buyers compete fiercely for top-graded examples because they know there will never be more of them. The US Mint won't recreate a 1971 doubled die. The die is long gone, the moment has passed. What exists today is all that will ever exist. Scarcity is permanent, and permanence drives price. But here's the sobering truth: most 1971 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. Condition matters. Authenticity matters, professional grading matters. The market rewards only the best, which makes the hunt even more thrilling, because it's not about every penny. It's about the one with sharp, blazing red luster untouched by circulation, the one with bold, unmistakable doubling, the one that survived 55 years without a scratch, and maybe, just maybe, the one sitting quietly in your possession. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly looked at your change, not glanced, not spent, but examined? Because history has proven something extraordinary. Fortunes have been discovered in the smallest places. A 1943 copper cent found in a high school cafeteria. A 1955 doubled die rescued from circulation. And yes, a 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln cent that transformed from pocket change into an $844,000 headline. These stories aren't myths. They're documented sales. They're auction records. They're proof that rarity hides in plain sight. And here's the final revelation: the value of the 1971 no-mint mark cent isn't just about copper and zinc. It's about awareness. 2 people can hold the exact same Coin point 1 sees a penny, the other sees possibility. Point 1 spends it, the other sends it for grading, and changes their financial future. Knowledge is the multiplier, curiosity is the trigger, action is the difference. So tonight, before you dismiss the jar of pennies, before you roll them up and trade them for a few dollars, pause. Pull out the 1971s. Look for the absence of a mint mark beneath the date. Study liberty, examine in God we trust, search for doubling that leaps out at you, because hidden within America's most ordinary coin could be an extraordinary surprise, and while the odds are slim, they are not zero. Somewhere in this country, another rare 1971 no mint mark cent is waiting to be recognized. The question is simple: will it be found by someone who knows what to look for, or will it slip back into circulation, unnoticed, for another 50 years? Your next fortune might not come from the stock market. It might not come from real estate. It might be sitting quietly in copper form, dated 1971. Blending in with the rest, all it takes is 1.1 coin. Point 1 discovery. Point 1 moment of recognition, and suddenly, 1 cent becomes a story worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. And now ask yourself, when you hear pennies clinking in your pocket, do you still hear something ordinary, or do you hear opportunity?